That Great Business Show, officially Ireland's top business podcast, crowned UCD's Smurfit's Business Podcast of the Year.
Welcome to episode 270 of our Great Business Show, where we make business fun. And thanks to our brilliant, fun guests, we have a good time discussing business. I'm Conall Ó Móráin, and I'll start with a huge big thank you to the Irish Podcast Award for our nomination as Business Podcast of the Year. We, as you can see, are streaming in glorious Technicolor on YouTube, but if you prefer life in black and white, you can still listen to us on Spotify and on Apple. On this episode, we are talking all things transport tech, the roads, the tolls, the trucks, and the data that keeps Ireland moving. But first, a smooth word from our long-time wingman, that is Facto Shaving Oil. It's the little bottle that goes the long distance. It's made in Mayo, sold worldwide, no waste, no faff. It is sustainable. It's the shaving oil that lasts for months. Your face, your wallet, and the planet will say thank you. You'll find it on defactoshave.com. Tell Tom Murphy we sent you. Now, the glamour of business, and that's what my next guest says every morning when he wakes up, thinking about fleets, fuel, and dirty, great big trucks. Geotab is a Canadian company with technology that drives fleets across Ireland, the UK, and way beyond. Listen to this. With 5 million connected vehicles sending 100 billion data points every day, they're helping to track, to plan, and to save. And if your business ships goods, and if you haven't heard it already, directly or indirectly, your costs are going up again as toll charges are upped, even though that infrastructure is probably long paid for. So anything extra possibly drops to their bottom line, and don't expect the government to do anything about it. Phil Barnes is Business Development Manager for the UK and Ireland at Geotab. Phil, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Carl, thank you so much for having me. Really pleased to be here.
I love the way that little bit of exasperation, because you were exasperating with me about the tolls.
Yeah.
Tell us about the impact of those tolls.
Yeah, the tolls are, well, obviously, not just here in Ireland, but there's tolls across Europe as well. But the impact is significant on commercial fleets. Effectively, when they're putting budgets in for their next year, the number of toll crossings that they have, couple of years ago when it happened, one business down in Limerick, it cost them nearly €25,000 cost increase just to do exactly the same work. So they have to find a way of, pulling that back somewhere. And ultimately, guess who ends up paying?
The customer.
Correct.
You
the consumer.
and I.
Consumer.
Yeah, but there's another thing there, and I go back to this thing. Much of that infrastructure is well paid for.
It is.
So, there's a bit of gouging going on.
Yeah, there is. We don't get too politicized by it all. From a Geotab point of view, what we do with our take, we're data, we're data sets, and we're really keen to help commercial fleets, commercial businesses measure how many times those vehicles cross the tolls so that they can potentially plan. We have routing and optimization pieces. We can try and help change ways, different routes, and so on. What we're finding is, the reasoning from a government point of view of why they're increasing tolls doesn't necessarily align with the public and with the commercial fleets in terms of what we actually have to do. We don't reduce congestion on the M50, for example.
And I know that you don't do politics. I do, because I get off with them, because it's against business. It's just another, as you say, another attack on business. And you can see in Britain, your native land, what Rachel Reeves is doing to business with the national insurance cost. It's just killing businesses, small business particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we look to do is we look to, measure the amount of, to and from the toll activity. And what we will be doing as part of our, data piece and our big sort of geopolitical and our big data piece next year is looking at what the impact has been on the flows of particular tolls, from the M4, M50 tolls. And so on.
Do people avoid the tolls if they can?
They do, yeah.
Which again defeats that point, because they're meant to be on the main roads and not going down little boat-reens and all the rest.
But you've driven, particularly when you go out into the country, you're down the M4s and M7s and so on. The old roads. When I moved here 20 years ago, those roads were either not functional or were not complete. And the businesses that were on the older roads are now out of business.
Yeah.
which is a tragedy for those. And now it's run by Apple Greens and all the others, and they're there to serve the community and what they're doing. But that local community is now lost because they're pushing stuff onto major roads and then charging us for it.
100 billion pieces of data a day.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, how does anybody humanly or inhumanly collate that?
Yeah.
And is that across the Geotab? Now, maybe give a little bit of Geotab's history, because you are a huge company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Geotab are the global leader in connected vehicle technology. Okay, so we are born out of an engineering base. Our founder's an engineer. We're made up of a lot of engineers within our business, and engineers are designed to build things, to fix things, to provide solutions to things. And that's what we do. So from a vehicle point of view, we're all about the data. So the more data you have, data is king. The more data you have, the better opportunity you have to do something with it. So we have a plethora of tools which allows all different types of businesses, from huge corporate state businesses down to one-man band show businesses, help them deliver operational efficiency. And having the data is one thing, but being able to use it and have insightful information is another. And that's what we try and help with.
I'm a sad so-and-so, and I love a good case study. Mm-hmm. Have you got any good case studies? You can make them up, because I won't know whether you're telling me the truth. But looking at you in the eyes, I think you're going to tell me the truth.
Absolutely, yeah, no. And, geotab.com/IE for Ireland. You can go to success stories there, and there is a number of success stories from Irish businesses. We're across the globe. We're in 160 countries.
That must be almost everyone in the world, is it?
We've got about 100,000 customers. We've got about 5.6 million vehicles and assets, on the books as it is at the moment. And if we take back about 22 months, so just under 2 years, we've added another million. So we're in a big, in a big growth point of our business, and people and companies are looking to say, we need the data.
But that's because because of the advances in technology. Now, hold that thought, because I want to come back to that. But back to my case studies. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the 25,000 or the 50,000 or the 500,000 euros that you saved some of your customers.
Yeah, so there's a lot of businesses have their objectives. Whether they're a private business or a public business, they've got an objective, they've got a budget, and we're very much about your management by measurement. So if you're not measuring all the things in your portfolio, you're going to have some challenges, because good data in is good data
What's
out.
That term? You can only fix what's measured, or something like that, isn't that it?
Yeah. So let's say we're management by measurement. So if you measure it and the quality of the data is good, which is what Geotab provides, and then gives you the tools to allow you to make better. I use the word better, but I'd say more informed decisions based on your objectives from a company point of view. So back to your case study point of view, there might be businesses that are, particularly in the world we're in now, where they might be saying, look, we're coming under pressure to, procure alternative fueled vehicles, from, moving away from ICE, the combustion engine vehicle. So we can help them make a decision to say, well, actually, these 2, 3, 10, whatever number of vehicles in their sector could actually go to in this case, maybe an electric vehicle or a HVO vehicle or something else. It doesn't have to be EV, but it's alternative fuels. And then we do that by measuring all the things that they do now, and then give them the real world data of what the alternative vehicle will do, and say, look, it will do it like for like. Or if it won't do it like for like, say, well, actually, if you put this in here and that in there and change your operation to this piece, it will then work. And this will save you this, and it will then give you a CO2 reduction of this. And when you're then doing your ESG reporting, and we've got the CSRD reports that are coming through, and all those things are changing.
CSRD.
Yeah, so it's the corporate sustainable reporting and emissions. Okay, so we're basically we're led by the EU. From a reporting
is this
point
is
of view.
Obligatory, or is this?
Yeah, no, it's obligatory. It's all changed now. At the moment, there's only a level of businesses which are much bigger businesses currently, but they're starting to squeeze that as we move towards the end of the decade. So pretty much every business will have the requirement to report and say, well, what are your emissions based on your fleet, and then on your premises and all the other things and stuff that go by.
And what, say, we'll take me as an example. I have 5 trucks, and what's it going to cost me to become a Geotab customer, and what do I get in return for that?
Well, the way we work that is, obviously there's always a monthly, yes, I suppose if you take an example of, a subscription for your mobile phone and so on and so forth, they are costs. The way we look at Geotab is we're giving you a tool to help you measure information that you currently don't get or you currently have to do manually. So there's a cost.
And where does that go? Is that a chip in the engine? Or
yeah, I mean, you've probably heard the term around black box. Okay,
yeah.
So the traditional way of collecting data is to use a black box within a vehicle, which we will provide and install and do all of the heavy lifting, so to speak. However, you've also heard the terms connected vehicles. So as we become more modern in our technologies across assets, as in vehicles, cars, vans, trucks, etc., the connected vehicle space is open, and we connect to majority of about 86% of OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, vehicle makers. We connect to about 86% of those currently to get the data without actually having to have a black box. So there's lots of.
How does that work?
Well, it's all done through
connectivity. I'm driving Mercedes, and what are you doing with Mercedes?
So we have an agreement with the likes of many of the OEMs where we can connect in to get data. It's not personal data; it's just vehicle data. So it's engine diagnostics, mileage, odometer, service intervals, oil, whatever it might be, EV range, EV batteries.
And you're picking up my Mercedes truck, all that data from them.
Correct.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
it's all anonymized. So,
of course, I don't mind that, but that's a lot of information. Now, 100 billion, zillion, billion, it doesn't matter. It's a massive, massive number. That has to go somewhere. A data center somewhere, I presume, and then it has to be broken down and parsed and analyzed and given back.
Yeah, so we have huge data centers, as you could probably imagine, and they are obviously depending on where we are in the globe and what Latin America, North America, Europe, the UK. We have different data centers in different sectors. So your data is held locally in that respect, locally with inverted commas, and processed locally. And then what we do is, if you imagine, the Atlantic Ocean is a big place. If you went to go fishing, you say, go out into the Atlantic Ocean, go fishing. It probably take you quite a while to catch a fish. However, the way we manage our data is we pocket it into what we call database level. So the database level is the local pond where you go down to the little fishing pond and you can pull the fish out much quicker. So we optimize how you can retrieve data and use the tools within it to make sure that you're getting the value.
And in Ireland, you have identified odds and unusual activities by Irish drivers.
Yeah, look, we have many stories. Okay,
please tell.
Obviously, all anonymous,
of course.
But we'll have ones
but you
where
can tell me afterwards.
Yeah, we have many drivers. And unfortunately, some of them are in cases where you think, it's quite an unfortunate scenario that's happened. But I've been sat in meetings where there's been a base where there's been a number of 20, 30 drivers in a room, all very not all, but there was one out of this particular 2025 that was particularly unhappy about his driving behavior. And the way I look at that is, well, why is that my fault that your driving behavior is bad? Okay, so
was he blaming Geotab for his driving?
Well, he was blaming a score that he was given based on some settings that their business had set up through our platform. And cutting a long story short here, essentially he had 301 speeding events. Okay, over a 3-month period. Okay, and by classing
go over that again.
301.
Is that possible?
Yeah, 301 speeding events in a 3-month period.
In 90 days.
So, and the way we classify, or the way the business classifies speeding, isn't you're 1 kilometer over the speed limit and you're in a 50 zone, so you're doing 51, you got it. The way we support the business to say, well, you want real world data. So what we say to them now is, well, let's say you are 10% over the speed limit for more than 30 seconds, and then we will attribute you having a speeding record. So this person had a number of 301 events where they were for more than 30 seconds, more than 10% over the speed limit.
I thought the guard had caught him 300 times.
No. These are just on his reporting scorecards. So I'm sat in the room with these people, and there was 2 of those 301 which were contentious. And the reason being is because GPS data is obviously from the satellites down, so it's pointing straight down. And it happened to come where, he was passing under a flyover, and he was on a motorway doing, 120 Ks or 122 Ks, but it pinged him doing 120 Ks and a 50. Okay, because the road over it was a 50. So it was just highly unlikely for it to happen, right? But it can happen. We call it a false positive.
Yeah.
Okay, and the system can pick up that, and most of the time it takes them out. So, but remember that number of 301, and he's had 2 of these instances in this point, and his whole issue was the fact that the system isn't fit for purpose and doesn't work. So what we say to him is, we have corrective tools for this where you can correct those points so that next time it comes, it won't happen. So if he happens to be doing 120 Ks and it'll know, so it won't calculate it next time. We have those tools to validate. So the takeaway from that, what we call a QBR, a quarterly business review, was I will go away and fix those 2 with your business to show that you are not as bad as you think you are. And in 3 months' time, you fix the 299 where it was your fault.
And what did he say to that?
He had a fairly grumpy face, and I was lucky to get out of the room without any further significant damage. But it was. But the point is, it's about people don't, because we do things via habit. I'm not a perfect driver. Okay, I get speeding events, etc. And we use speeding as an example because it's probably the most common.
Do you have a Geotab box in your car?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do?
I do,
And does it talk to you? Does it say,
it can.
Phil, slow down?
Well, we do have a thing called Go Talk if you wanted it to do that. We can have it beep at you. You can have different settings so that you can start to give you information. And you can go down a level of having coaching. We can have the system set to coach. Ultimately, we are a facilitator of a technology to help a business.
And why is your technology not stuck into every learner driver and junior, what do they call novice drivers?
Yeah,
because you could stop all of the speeding, couldn't you? I mean, I don't mean you could, but one could ping.
Yeah. Well, if you think about insurance companies now, there are policies where they have to require a black box in there, and it's not just ourselves. There are many
do you
other
never
providers.
Ask, why is it not made mandatory? If they're so busy taking money off us for toll roads, why don't they just go on?
But not just that, it's about how you can potentially save. So if you think about when you submit a insurance quote, for example, how many miles or how many kilometers do you do each year? You'll always lie, or you'll lie. Oh, I'll do 10,000.
Yeah.
Because you think that's going to make it cheaper. Rather than putting 40,000.
Yeah.
From a learner point of view, where we can help with those points is say, well, actually, you're not allowed to drive after the hours of 10 p.m. till 4 a.m., for example. Okay, and we can monitor whether it does that or not. Or what we do is you're not looking sitting at a screen, but it'll send an alert. It'll send a report at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month.
I presume that's something that will be applied sooner rather than later.
It's applied it's applied in lots of things now. If you go to the likes of Aviva and lots of other Allianz and some of these big insurers, they have policies where, and again, depending on age, length of time of having your license, or if you're just new, and indeed the type of vehicle in which you're driving, there's a requirement to have such a box. From our point of view, Geotab really focuses on commercial fleets.
Yeah, but
the data pieces do work across the insurance point as well.
Yeah. And there are many, many, many more
huge use cases.
Private cars than there are trucks and lorries.
There are.
So therefore, maybe you and I should have a chat off air and see about getting into business together.
Indeed.
There is a big opportunity.
There is indeed, and like I say, it's a growing area. There's a lot of areas of scope. And if you think we've got 5.6 million vehicles, that's nearly double the amount that's in Ireland. There's about 2.7 million in Ireland. But
that's total vehicles.
That's total vehicles. 5.6 across the world. But how many vehicles? There's 33 million vehicles on the road in the UK. So, we are miles off having saturation yet. There's still a lot of growth to go at.
Now, just before we wrap up, I heard somebody told me that Irish drivers don't seem to like to be videoed while they're driving, i.e. having the camera facing them. And my bad mind suggests lots of things. Why is that so? Or why can it be so?
The dash cam technology has been around a long time.
And it's brilliant.
Yeah. And, it's hugely effective in terms of, providing reality, particularly when you combine that with the Geotab telematics piece. You've got driver styles and history and so on. The in-cab piece, we did a survey a short time ago where we asked 3,500 people, of which 500 were here in Ireland, and talked about what's your sort of perception of in-cab or two lenses cameras.
So one facing out.
So you've got your road facing and your inward facing for commercial fleets. Reminding, okay, so 96% were like, "Ooh, I'm a little bit unsure about it." Okay, on that question, but 95% said we would overlook the concern if it helped support us in an incident where something happened and it proved that I was okay. So we analyze that down a little bit further, and it becomes what we call a privacy versus a protection kind of battle.
Yeah.
And where we come in from a business point of view is advising, supporting, and helping shape a driver policy in a commercial fleet that is transparent, is open, and the driver has full visibility of what is being recorded. And the reasons why businesses start to look at things is, still today, in this very day and age, one of the biggest issues with drivers is not wearing their seatbelts.
Really? Of commercial drivers?
And we can tell if you're wearing your seatbelt or not.
But commercial drivers? Any driver, but commercial. Sitting there, whatever, many hours a day.
Absolutely. So we have multiple times of where, vehicles are showing no driver seatbelt.
Worse in Ireland than UK or?
Comparable. In fairness, the data on both sides is very, very comparable.
What is it? I couldn't drive because I feel comfortable with it. Mm-hmm. That's really weird.
It's strange, but if you think about, some maybe last mile delivery points where they're in and out of the vehicles all the time, their policy is, absolutely. So it becomes a bit of a challenge for them. However, if you're on a public road, it's legal to have, and we can pick it up from our telematics device, but you have the evidence from the camera as well. So there's little nuances like that, changing the radio on your mobile phone, all these types of things, these are serious events. We're focused on supporting companies with vehicles to make the road safer, not just and primarily for the driver themselves, but also for the people around them.
Are you old enough to remember the UK TV ad, clunk, click, every trip?
Yes, absolutely correct. Yeah.
That's stuck in my head. It's brilliant,
in the 80s or late 70s, early 80s, yeah.
You probably don't remember.
Unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember that.
Do you know whose voice was on that, I think? I think it was Jimmy Savile. I think so.
Yeah, it's probably why it's off the air now.
We'll skip over that one.
Yes.
Final question. Yeah. You have been prepped because I have asked you. Okay. Who would you hire in a heartbeat?
Right. Who would I hire in a heartbeat? So I have a couple of names that spring to mind. But and from the one that everybody will know is a man called Sir Billy Connolly. He was a inspiration to me growing up. And what I loved about him and what I love about him is his ability to create everyday scenarios and put the fun into them and put the humor into them and give you reality. And that's what we do in a way with Geotab. It might not sound as fun and funny, but he delivers it in such a way, and he would be a great advocate.
I think the comparison between Geotab and Billy Connolly is just a stretch too far. Well, he is my hero. Yes. He is incredible.
Yes, but that's where I got a lot of my inspiration in terms of things from him. But my personal one would be my late wife, who was my inspiration in lots of ways. Her way of being able to read a situation, her way to open doors, her way to put a perspective on things. She was and still remains to be my number one inspiration.
I was not expecting that, but would you mind, if you don't mind my asking, to give her a name? Or
yeah, Mary Barnes. And sadly, I lost her this year.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear. This is all new to me.
Yeah, look, this is the purpose of the podcast. I understand that, but she was an inspiration. Well, she's the lady that brought me to Ireland, which I now love, and I'm a blow in, as I know. But I've taken it as my spiritual home, and I have a lot to thank for her.
Well, Mary Barnes, wherever you are, thank you for being mentioned on That Great Business Show. And Phil Barnes, thank you for joining us on That Great Business Show.
Thank you very much, Conall.
That Great Business Show.
My next guest has seen the delivery business from every angle as an entrepreneur, an innovator, and more recently as an outspoken critic of how Ireland's logistics system is creaking under pressure. He's been warning for years that the courier sector was heading for a crunch. And now, with the sudden collapse of Fastway couriers, his predictions have proven right. Now, hundreds of staff and subcontractors are left in limbo. Tens of thousands of undelivered parcels are stuck in warehouses. And, as often happens, small businesses are understandably furious. ISME and other industry groups are blaming government policy, while others say Fastway's business model simply ran out of road. Business is about solving problems, so my next guest isn't here just to analyse the wreckage. He's here with solutions. He's been with me before. He is the founder of OOHpod, the parcel collection network, changing how Ireland handles last mile delivery. His name is John Tuohy. And John Tuohy, welcome to That Great Business Show.
Thank you, Conall. It's great to be here again.
Well, let us start with the elephant that is no longer in the room, that being Fastway. It's hit SMEs badly. You know what went on. Talk to me about what you saw, what you think could happen, what should happen, what's an answer, what can anybody, particularly what can fellas who have their parcels stuck somewhere, what can they do?
Okay. So first of all, I should say, I only know about Fastway what I've read in the newspapers as you have, and I haven't been in the actual business of delivering parcels since 2017, so that's 8 years ago. And it has changed utterly since then, because what's happened is you've had a lot more volume of e-commerce volume come into the market with Chinese retailers and so on. None of that was around back in my day.
Man, and you say back in your day, you're only talking about 8 years ago.
8 years ago, but it's Conall, the market is changing and it's changing rapidly. So nearly every day there's consolidation in Europe or the UK, and it's a lot of it is driven by high volume and low margin business, so it requires a lot of consolidation in the market, and there's going to be casualties there. There's no question.
What's the margin in that business? Are we talking about single low figures?
Well, if you look at the published accounts of companies like DHL and FedEx, their sort of EBITDA margin would be down around 8 to 10%. So that's EBITDA before it's not their net margin, that kind of stuff. So it's a volume and low margin business, and if you've got volume and you can control costs, it's a profitable it's a profitable venture and all the rest of it. But if you're small and you're stuck caught between the rock and the hard place, then you're going to become a casualty, I think. And
were you wise? Did you get out because you saw what was going to happen, or?
Not really. I mean, back in 2017, we were the second largest player in the Irish market then, after An Post, and so the scale that we had really protected us from sort of the buffering of prices dropping or events in the market. I think back then what was more on our mind was Brexit. So we had Brexit. The Brexit vote had just happened in 2016.
Again, it sounds like it was 100 years ago now, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And about a third of our sales turnover came from the UK at that time. So we were turning over about 65 million. About 20 million of that was generated from large UK online retailers. So there was a lot of uncertainty there, and there was a lot of money to be spent on various scenarios that may or may not have happened, And then we also had, I suppose, UPS were interested in acquiring the business. So we had a major trade player, kind of with the checkbook open, and there was a lot of uncertainty around. And we had a lot of mouths to feed. We had about 1,250 people engaged between employment and contractors, like in the Fastway scenario.
That's a lot of people, though.
It is a lot of people, and I think you have to bear your responsibilities in mind when you're making business decisions. When you see how a situation like a closure like of Fastway is handled badly, and you see the hardship and the misery that it's caused for those the employees and their families and so on, so close to Christmas.
Contractors, yeah.
And then the chaos that it's caused for customers. You know what I mean? It really begets to question the board and the exec team as to why they couldn't have made some of those decisions if they knew that the writing was on the wall. 6 or 12 weeks ago, why they hadn't gone into maybe an examinership process and let the business fold in a more orderly fashion. So it really, I think, it's not the fault of the people that were standing outside the door yesterday asking for the government to intervene. it's the fault really of the board, I think, in essence, and the management that are in charge, and really they have questions to answer. I think is really the bottom line when it comes to that Fastway situation.
Well, luckily for you, you got out with a check.
Yeah, well,
and then you decided, in your wisdom, to get back into parcels, but in a different kind of a way. You might just explain how, and I am a user, I will put my hand up and say that OOHpod works. Why does OOHpod work, and how does OOHpod work?
Okay, so I think, I've said to you before, when I launched OOHpod, I could see that the market in Europe and the trends in the market in Europe in particular, but now also in the UK, are heading towards what we call out-of-home delivery. So that's where the OOH comes from. And it's because of that issue of low margin, high volumes, where the delivery industry really needs to consolidate, have consolidation points for delivery and pickup rather than going to individual houses.
They don't want to do number 16, number 23, number 25.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that's where home delivery in time will become a sort of a premium option. And it'll be more common for you to pick up your online orders at a local Lidl or Tesco at a parcel locker.
Is already the US way, is it?
Not really. I mean,
the
US is actually more behind in out of home. So you don't really. There's parcel lockers. I suppose the real champion of parcel lockers in around the world in the last, say, 10 years or so has been Amazon. So Amazon has its own private locker network in the US, about 20,000 locations, which is not really a lot considering the size of the market there. Where parcel lockers are really sort of taken hold are in Asia, China. The largest parcel locker network in the world is in China. Hivebox, they have about 400,000 locations. That means 400,000 individual parcel lockers in cities mainly in China.
But there are a lot of people in China as well.
A lot of people, but they also realise the value of consolidation and the efficiency that it brings. And then in Europe, you have a number of countries where they've adopted parcel lockers. So, for example, in the Baltics, more than 90% of all items ordered online now are delivered through parcel lockers. It wouldn't be unusual to go to a shopping centre and like the one we're in now in say in Tallinn and go to and see parcel lockers outside from 7 different parcel locker service providers. And then also if you go to Poland as well, as where InPost, the pan, which is now a European business but originated in Poland, it's the preferred way for people to receive online orders is through parcel lockers.
Go back to the one with 7 options. How do they differentiate? I mean, a locker is a locker is a locker. I'm sure you don't believe that.
Well, all of the service providers like UPS and DPD and all these guys all have their own parcel locker, proprietary parcel locker networks in the Baltics. So they all have their own lockers. So that's why you'll see so many of them outside one shopping centre. So I suppose what we're bringing to the market is what we call an agnostic and open access public network that's open to all of the couriers to use. So, for example, in Ireland, where we've got a population density of 50 people per square kilometre, which is one of the lowest in Europe, by comparison to, say, if you take England without Wales and Scotland and Northern Ireland, I think the population density there is about 400 people per square kilometre.
Well, it's a bit of a difference.
It's huge, yeah. So in that case, there's probably not scope in Ireland for every parcel carrier to have their own proprietary parcel locker network. So that's where a shared network comes into it.
That's where OOHpod comes into it.
That's where we come into it, yeah. So far, I mean, we already have UPS, DHL, DPD signed up to use the shared locker network in the Republic of Ireland. And in the north, then we have DPD, Yodel, which is one of the big parcel delivery companies, UK parcel delivery companies, now owned by InPost actually. And we also do business with Royal Mail, Amazon, and Every, which are other parcel logistics operators in the UK, which have a presence in Northern Ireland, obviously, And
how many lockers has OOHpod got now?
We have about 250 now, including about 75, I think, in Northern Ireland. I could be wrong about that, but I think it's
compared to the 400,000 in China, you've got a little bit of catching up to do.
Yeah, I think our optimum number here is probably somewhere between around 700 to 1,000. I think at the moment we have a parcel locker location for every 6,000 households. Okay, in Ireland.
And what's the hold up in getting more and more and more out there?
It's just I suppose one is capital in terms of, it's an expensive thing to buy, and then it's just about planning the locations and making arrangements when we have
what works and what doesn't work. Tell me the inside tips of that.
So what works for us really is we've a great relationship with Tesco and Lidl, for example. So they're great because they're head office deals, and you go to Lidl head office, and we agree that we're going to put parcel lockers at as many Lidl outlets as we can, and their store format tends to be very standard. So without even sort of going to visit a store, we can tell if it's one of the new type that they're building, which are these fantastic sort of eco stores. They're made.
So they're carbon neutral. So the brand new one of Lidl is
the brand new one in Minute has a OOHpod proudly standing in the car park. So,
and I'm always looking for the negatives sometimes, not sometimes, frequently, is that vandalism. Do you get vandalised?
We get, believe it or not, the most vandalised parcel locker we've had in the country is in Ballybrack, which is just down the road from Dalkey and Killiney. So you'd be quite surprised about that. Yeah. But again, it's a lesson in you can be, the way there's that old saying that a restaurant can be 10 metres away from success. A parcel locker is very similar if it's in the wrong location, or if it's in a dark place or around the corner. And it was in that particular shopping centre in Killiney, the parcel locker was located around the back where the bins are and the roll cages are and that kind of stuff.
So what, you whip it out and move it?
It was vandalised several times, so we've given up now. We've removed it altogether. So the good people at Ballybrack don't have an OOHpod anymore, but we can find a more suitable location nearby. We'll certainly
has a plenty room in his garden, I'd say, up that direction.
I'd say, he'd like one outside the gate, all right,
So you have big plans because the expansion has started in a big way, but you also tell me that, because I had thought that you had told me previously that the UK was part of those plans, but it's not. Let's stick with Ireland first of all. What's the plan for Ireland?
So the plan for Ireland is to continue to roll out our network in Ireland, and we've got some great new locations coming up now. We've Blackrock Village Centre going in this week
in Dublin.
Yeah.
Remember, there's a Blackrock in Louth, there's a Blackrock in Cork, there's a Blackrock lots of places.
That's right. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah. So our focus really is just on continue to roll out the network and to work with our parcel carrier clients to because we're listening to what they're saying in terms of their hotspots, in terms of where their needs are, and so on as well. And then we're also launching some of our own services and new services to the market as well.
Which are going to be handy for businesses, so you better tell the businesses what those are.
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose with the Fastway demise, we have potentially about 300 in before you go into peak season and Christmas shopping season and all that. There would have been about 300,000 Fastway deliveries on the road every week.
That's a lot.
So that's a lot. It's a lot of deliveries that are looking for a new home now, and you'll see that both on Post and DPD, who are effectively operating a duopoly now. A smaller player in the market now would be GLS, who are another multinational. They would have made their plans for Christmas months ago, and so they're kind of saying, look, there's only so much that we can absorb here in terms of the extra parcels that are in the market.
So unvarnished truth. Will Christmas be cancelled? Will there be big problems with parcel deliveries for Christmas?
I think it's going to be a tough Christmas. I think because on Post and DPD, for example, being the two main players in the market now in parcel delivery, will do their best to accommodate customers that were splitting their business maybe between them and Fastway. So they'll be trying to accommodate customers that they've already had, as well as try and bring on new customers. And I think that a lot of who will feel the squeeze here really now and in the future is small or SME customers, because with the contraction in the market and with that kind of capacity taken out of it, it's inevitable that there'll be an upward price correction for parcel delivery in the market, which had probably got too cheap anyway.
Correction means higher price.
Yeah. So definitely SMEs will be facing
but you're
higher
doing
prices.
Something about that.
Yeah, well, look, we're just doing our best really big in terms of offering services. We had these planned anyway, so we've got 3 new services that we're bringing to the market now, and we'll be launching them on our website, OOHpod.com, OOHpod.com. And
do you ever think that the OO, I know what it means, out of home, was it a good idea? I keep wondering about that.
Why? In terms of the name,
just the name. You call it BooPod or something. No.
Yeah, well, you never know. It's kind of catching on now. Some people refuse to say ooh, they say OOH, and
Okay. Sorry, I interrupted you. We're just on your pitch for the business. Tell us now.
Anyway, so it's
for SMEs listening, this is important.
So, and anyway, there are thousands of people. Before I talk about that, we've got about 50,000 registered users who use our parcel lockers on a regular basis for their incoming deliveries. So, for example, if they're shopping on Amazon and they're not at home to receive their order, they can have they can address the parcel to our parcel locker and put their OOID, which they get when they register on the parcel, and then Amazon and Post, DPD and so on will deliver it to the parcel locker, and the consumer pays for that through their registration.
About €2.30 or something. It's not exactly
it's not
break the bank. Yeah.
It's not break the bank stuff, and it's very popular in the border areas because we have our parcel shop in Jonesborough, which is just over the border, so you can order on UK sites, have it delivered there, and then go in person to pick it up. So it's a different transaction than if you have it shipped across border.
Of course, because nobody would ever try to dupe the customs and excise, sure they wouldn't.
No. Once you're going in person to pick the parcel up,
that's what I mean.
You're not. You
go up there every day. Of course,
it's the same as going to Newry to do your shopping.
Because it's all in all island. It's creative ambiguity is what the term was when they were making that deal. It's brilliant.
Is that right?
Northern Ireland, I do wish that they'd actually cop on to themselves and milk it for all it's worth, because by Jesus, they need a bit of pickup. Actually, I was up in Newry on Sunday. There is a place that needs an injection of business.
The shopping centres are looking a bit sad there, all right. Yeah.
And you'd think because of Brexit and because what they are allowed to do with the South, all of the cars in the car park there were from the South that I could see. But anyway, I keep interrupting as I do.
So sorry, So I was saying, look, we already have, I suppose that's the update since I saw you last, is that we've about 11,000 parcels going through our parcel lockers every week, customers using it.
Is that up to what your plans were, or behind, or ahead?
Yeah, no, it's about on plan. Yeah, I mean, as I suppose it's a bit like building a railway. We have to, as we put out new infrastructure and put the tracks down and the train on the tracks, that it attracts more customers. And
when people get used to it, because initially it looks a little bit complicated, but it's not actually. It's actually very, very, very simple.
Yeah, indeed. No, I mean, so as I say,
we've a good sales job for you here.
You are indeed.
But I'm a happy customer, so
I know.
I'm happy to tell people about it.
You'll have to send me your commission invoice. But I suppose we've got around 50,000 signed up customers. We spend very little money on marketing, actually, or promotion. Most of the promotion is done when people see the parcel lockers themselves at their local Lidl store or Tesco store or SuperValu store, or at their local Circle K petrol station or whatever it is. So once people see it there and start wondering what it's about, and then check our website. So we tend to pick up a lot of new registrations and new customers that way, which is fantastic, But I suppose the new services that we want to talk about for Christmas, which will help maybe some of those smaller SMEs or micro sellers that have been started.
Yeah.
So the first one we have. So first of all, we've got a new page on our website called you click send a parcel and it brings you to a landing page, and on there'll be three options. One is called Leave to Collect, which will be really good for very small sellers online who you'd see a lot on TikTok, and a lot of them are complaining about, the Fastway business, what are they going to do about their deliveries and so on. So Leave to Collect is basically where you can go on our website, book a parcel locker at any of our locations or multiple locations if you have multiple orders, and then you can put your parcels in your car and go and drop them off at the parcel lockers yourself if they're near where your customers are living.
Which is unlikely. I mean, if you're making something down in Cork and your customer's up in Donegal, you're not going to do that trip. So there's another service though, isn't there? Yeah,
you'd be amazed though that the number of artisan sellers that are based in, say, the west of Ireland or in rural areas where their customer base, or at least half of it, is in Dublin. So those guys
take a trip over here and
listen. So many of those guys will actually load up the car at night time, or get their father-in-law to do it, or the local taxi guy.
They're real grafters.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so what they do is they'll go to Dublin during the night and drop off the parcels at the parcel lockers for customers to pick up. And that way they're keeping the parcels away from postal and courier networks, and especially coming up to Christmas, they're worried about parcels getting stuck with delivery delays and so on. So that's a great solution. And it starts at only €2 to use it, and that's €2 including VAT.
Did you ever do the maths on it? I suppose it depends on what you're shipping and all the rest. But I mean, does it work out cheaper to drive from Connemara over to Dublin and to drop them into the OOHpods, or is it?
I think at this time of the year it might make more sense because people will have multiple orders of their whatever it is they're making and selling. So no, especially those kind of crafty artisan type retailers who might have, where they're might have exponential sort of growth, seasonal growth in their business, and it would make it worth their while. You'll find that a lot of sellers, for example, might supply retail stores in Dublin. So they'll have a local white van man who comes to Dublin to drop off at retail stores. So it's not a whole lot, much extra effort for him to go around and drop off retail orders to parcel lockers while he's in Dublin, kind of thing. So we're seeing that, and we've experienced that, and customers like it because it means that they've full control over and it means that they can also reduce their packaging costs because they can just put the order in a nice bag and tie it with a ribbon, put it in our parcel locker, because the next person that sees it is actually their customer.
So no big cardboard boxes plus all
cardboard boxes and bubble wrap and all that kind of stuff, because all of that adds to the cost as well, doesn't it?
Goes into the bin as well, which is terrible. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So there's that offer, and then we've two other options then as well that we're offering in conjunction with UPS, who are one of our major parcel carrier clients, and there'll be a UPS van calls to most of our parcel lockers most days. So it means that they're already calling to the parcel locker. So it's easy for them as an add-on to help us with this offering for those SME customers. It means that you have what we call a locker-to-locker product. So you can drop a parcel to locker, as the example you've given in Cork.
So you pick up, the UPS picks it up in Cork, and it'll be, say, bring this to the, well, not the Ballybrack one anymore, but whatever.
They'll bring it anywhere on the island of Ireland, Donegal included, and including Northern Ireland. Yeah. So it's including that as well, which is fantastic. Okay. So it's a great service.
And then £2 for that, €2.
The leave to collect price starts at €2. Locker to locker, I'm pretty sure starts at around $8.50. And then we've got another product called locker to door, which again, if you want to send it to somebody's door on the island of Ireland, or Republic or Northern Ireland, you can book it on our website, bring the parcel to your local locker, drop it off, and then UPS will automatically be notified to come pick it up, because the shipping label you get is actually a UPS shipping label, and UPS will pick it up and bring it, deliver it to the door. How does that
notify UPS? Is there a little Geotab or something? Or
We have an automatic system going on connected to UPS systems in the background. So once a customer comes and scans a UPS package at our locker, we notify UPS there's something here for you to come pick up. And as I said, most of our parcel lockers, most days, UPS pick up from or deliver to.
And very kindly, you mentioned earlier on that one of the problems that you have to expand is capital, because there's also news about a capital raise as well.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose we're in constant capital raising mode, but we're currently raising and have an EIS round open, and we've allocated 500k of that to Spark crowdfunding, and we've been working with Chris Burge and the team there. So they're going to launch that campaign. It's on the Spark crowdfunding website, and you can invest as little as €100 there, and you'll still get your 35% EIS tax relief.
And do you get any benefits? There was a big thing back in the 1990s in the UK to promote share ownership, is that if you bought shares in Virgin Airlines, you get 10% off. Are you going to give people a free use of the locker if they give you a few quid for your...
You know what? That's a great idea. And if I suppose through the Spark crowdfunding website, if SME customers want to make an investment and use the service, then of course we'll entertain a discount, a special.
You heard it here first, and you know who organised it.
I'll tell you what we'll do, Conall. After the show, we'll organise a discount code for you to put up on your
that sounds like a nice
website.
Yeah. And you can also pay for all this advertising. But you're not going to go into the UK.
No, look, the UK, we had, in 2023, we did a deal with Yodel in the UK, which is one of the big, it's probably the third or fourth largest parcel delivery company in the UK.
Who owns that one?
That was, at that time, owned by the Barclay brothers.
Oh, yeah, who used to own the Telegraph.
The Telegraph.
And that's all gone.
And the very retail group and all the rest of it, right? So we had actually done a deal with them to be their parcel locker partner in the UK.
Did you ever meet the Barclay brothers?
Never met them in person, no.
They're two strange boys, I'm told, but then again, a lot of people in business can be strange.
There's a great book about them written by a Guardian journalist called You May Never See Us Again. It's a great read. I recommend it. Yeah.
Okay, well, sorry, but keep putting into...
But anyway, so Yodel was a delivery company. We did a deal with them in 2023 to be their parcel locker partner in the UK. So that was going to launch us in the UK market, sort of properly. And we had started down the road of acquiring locations for parcel lockers.
That's why I remember that. That's why I thought about it, yeah.
And we had sort of been testing the product for Yodel in Northern Ireland. But since then, Yodel had mixed fortunes since then. They had the Yodel, I suppose you might describe as being the Fastway of the UK, to be honest, And they had lots of different difficulties. Some were in the news just as recently because an entrepreneur had thought he bought the business and then realised there was some convoluted reasons why he couldn't buy it and this kind of stuff. So, anyway,
I have to say it, your lady, no. Sorry,
there's a swing between the swings and the roundabouts. Yodel was actually acquired by InPost, which is by itself a parcel locker business in the UK. So it just put our
is that the one that's owned by that zillionaire from Latvia or something?
Rafał Brzuska, Polish man.
Polish, that's right.
Now it's a PLC now. It was launched on the Amsterdam Stock Exchange in 2021. Yeah,
a very wealthy boy.
Yeah, look, I think it was Advent, the PE bought it in 2017, the same year that I sold Nightline to Nightline and Parcel Motel to UPS. Advent bought InPost for, I think, 50 million euro. And they, as part of the deal, Rafał Brzuska, who is one of the finest entrepreneurs in Europe, one of the most successful guys. He's fantastic.
You mentioned him to me before. You are a fan.
I'm an absolute fan of his. And I've had the good fortune of meeting him a few times because my parcel motel days, I actually bought the parcel lockers and the tech from him.
Okay.
So I go back a long way with Rafał. And of course, he's the original. He saw his vision for out of home and parcel lockers and all the rest of it is what's driven a lot of this change in Europe. So he's responsible for a lot of that. But why did we start talking about him again?
We were talking about Brexit and stuff like that. So you out of the UK.
So the UK market, they bought Yodel, the parcel company that we had partnered with to be their locker partner, were essentially bought by InPost. So there was a different strategy and different ideas there. So we just kind of pulled our horns in a little bit, and because the UK market is consolidating so fast, and there's the bigger companies, it's consolidating at the top. The really big parcel companies are buying up other smaller guys and all the rest of it. So we're just kind of taking a step back and letting the dust settle and all that to see what crumbs fall off the table that might be suitable for us.
So where might you look to expand outside of this island?
Oh no, the UK will definitely be part of our plans. And we're sort of refining our UK product in Northern Ireland, because in Northern Ireland you have all the attributes of the UK market. You have all the carriers there, Royal Mail and so on, and you have all the UK retailers operate there. So we're kind of just treading the water, tweaking the product in the north, and then when we're ready to enter the UK, the mainland, as they say.
No, they say we don't. What? And
we'll be
6
ready
months
for
time, a year?
I think maybe second half of next year.
Okay.
We'll have.
And beyond that, would you look further into Europe, or is that just a step too far?
No, to be honest, I think Europe. So I was at a conference in London recently, and one of the top guys in DPD in Europe. So DPD in Ireland is actually owned ultimately by the French National Postal Service, La Poste, right? So if you think about it, that's quite interesting now. So it's quite interesting now because you've got two main players in Ireland. One is the Irish National Postal Service, and the other is the French National Postal Service, or a division of that. That's sort of had the parcel market the majority of the parcel market in Ireland. But I was watching a really interesting presentation by one of the senior guys there, and he was saying that they had gone from 70,000 out of home points. So an out of home point can be a parcel locker or your local corner store where you hand your parcel over the counter kind of thing. They'd gone from 70,000 out of home points in Europe to 140,000 in 2 years. So they really see the future of, and this is why I was saying to you earlier in the conversation, that it's the trend in Europe is to go to out of home, because that's where things get more productive, carbon gets reduced, and so on and so forth. There's an EU directive, I think, that was handed down or was put into law. I'm pretty sure it was 2009. I'd have to check it. It's called the Clean Air for Europe Directive, CAFE for short. And so some of the European countries are actually taking it very seriously and have implemented legislation around that. So, for example, and I know I'm jumping around here, but it's all sort of answering the question that you asked me in the first place, right? But for example, in Barcelona, the local government of Barcelona have forbidden free delivery of online orders.
Okay.
And the reason for that is they want to stop commercial vehicles going into residential areas, and it's all about air quality and all the rest of it. Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
And in France, for example, cities that have more than 100,000 inhabitants, there's, unless you're a top green rated vehicle, which means an emission-free vehicle, you're not allowed to drive into the city environs, which means commercial vehicles as well. But all of this has been driven by the Clean Air for Europe piece of legislation that was handed down by the European Union. I think as long ago as 10 or 15 years ago anyway, but in Ireland so far, I don't think we've done anything about that.
Funny that.
So you'd see...
But you're a fan of that.
Well, you'll see a lot of change, I think, coming to Ireland when the first bill arrives for us not meeting our carbon emissions targets.
Yeah.
And that's when I think that the state will start to wake up.
Yeah.
Because in parcel delivery, which is obviously the part we're talking about today, 50% of the cost and 50% of the carbon is in the final mile. That's when a diesel van chugs up your road to deliver that order that you've ordered from China or whatever,
And while we wait for the implementation, you have one final question, and that is, who would you, John Tuohy, hire in a heartbeat?
Well, do you know what I was thinking about recently, and I'm not sure about hiring him, but I did admire him as an entrepreneur, and he was an employer of mine in my early career, and it was Paul McGlade.
Yes.
And Paul, I only read about his death recently. I think he died within the last 12 months, and it was sudden. I don't think he was ill or anything before that, and I think he had just had got suddenly ill and died quite quickly. But I remember people of a certain age. I'm 57 now, so people will remember Apollo 1 discount stores in Dublin and the Super X store on Henry Street, which he actually co-owned with Johnny Ronan and Johnny Ronan's family, I think. And he was just such an amazing entrepreneur, and he started out actually with a market stall in Jonesborough. Which brings you nicely full circle. It does. So he was just, I had forgotten about him completely because I was in my teens when I worked in one of his stores on Moore Street, and I worked in his store on Henry Street as well. And I thought my career was going to be in retail in my early, my
Jonesborough and a stall.
And then I realised all my friends were off on a Saturday, and it was working Saturdays was the thing that got me out of retail and into parcels. But I think he was just a super entrepreneur, and some of the names that you'd know around, like Therapy, for example, was a company he founded.
That's
and I think
right.
It's run by one of his family now, his son.
That's connected in some ways. Is it with Pat Phelan as well?
No, Pat Phelan is Sisu, yeah.
Okay.
A similar thing, I think. Yeah. You've got Hale Vaping, the vaping stores. They're all over the place. That's part of the McGlade family empire, I think. And there was back in the day, there was Marathon Sports, which I think was bought out by one of the multinational
and I think he also might have owned a bit of or lots of Wagamama.
He owned the franchise for it. He was involved in, at one stage, in Captain America's and
Captain America's
Street
as well. That's right, yeah.
So look, I'd just like to pay homage to him. If he was alive today, I'd love to have a conversation with him, because I remember when I was a young guy working in his store in Moore Street in town, and he used to bring us out onto the street to show us the stalls, the fruit and veg stalls on Moore Street. And he'd say, these guys are the best marketing people in the world. He said, you'll see them arriving here at 7 o'clock in the morning, and by the end of the day, everything is sold. And he said, how do they figure that out? How do they know how much to buy? How much will sell, what will sell, all this kind of stuff. And he said, these are the people we need to learn from. So
price to sell, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, he was just a fantastic entrepreneur with a capital E.
Yeah. Okay, well, Paul McGlade, R.I.P., we, commiserations to your family, but if he were around, you'd like to have the chat.
Certainly would.
Yeah. That is John Tuohy. He is of OOHpod, and if you want to know more about their fundraising, it's on the Spark crowdfunding website, but you also, if you want to use his services, it's on his website as well. And you know what? I forgot to give you your de facto, because you know what? My last one had just run out that you gave me the last time I was here, so because
I'm delighted to have that now.
Forever, doesn't it?
It does last long.
Made in Mayo, sold worldwide, and you can ship it to one of your. I'm going to give you that one there.
I'm going to show it to the camera. My de facto, fantastic. Yeah.
And that is that you can put into your one of your lockers and give to people as a Christmas present or any other present, because it's just gorgeous. Baby skin. That's what I have. Yeah. And that is it for episode 270 of That Great Business Show. Still officially Ireland's best business podcast, not because we said so, but because those big brains down at the UCD Smurfit Business School said so. And please do us one small but a mighty favour. Hit repost on LinkedIn. That's the Irish version of buying your round, except it's free and painless. It also helps thousands more to find the show. We are, as ever, in glorious Technicolor, no filters, no flattering angles, just pure Irish business beauty, like John here. Captured here at the Dublin South FM podcast studios, where our top-class team makes the magic happen. Today, it was the turn of Richard Ryan, who's keeping the lights on, the sound crisp, and the attitude strictly can do. We're powered, as I mentioned, proudly by the Facto Shaving Oil, made in Mayo, sold worldwide. It is unquestionably the world's best shaving oil. It is not a beard oil. It's for anywhere you shave. For me, Conall Ó Móráin, gur raibh míle maithagaí agus slán tamil.